After 3 years of waiting, that's what we got? Well, at least it was better than Dark Phoenix. Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of The New Mutants. This movie is directed by Josh Boone, who previously directed The Fault in Our Stars. This movie stars Blue Hunt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Macy Williams, and Alice Braga. The New Mutants is about a group of young individuals that have been brought to this hospital, realizing they have mutant powers. It's not until a young New Mutants come on board that they discover why they are there, and they must work together to try to find a way out. For those of you that don't know, The New Mutants was originally slated to come out in 2017. Had the film been released then, it would have been welcomed with open arms. But now, 3 years later, with production issues and reshoots, the reception, the buzz, and the excitement has dwindled considerably. So, how was The New Mutants? So, I don't have a whole lot to say about this movie, and it's not to say that it's bad, it's just a simple observation. The New Mutants is an amalgamation of films like It and Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. That's where the fear and the horror aspects come in. But then you also have little shades of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and also, unfortunately, Fantastic Four. Yes, the new one. That's where the powers and the super beings come in. This film is one half horror, dealing with these young adults and their fears and having to confront these fears and being scared and frightened. And the movie does have some scary imagery. But then you have this movie taking place in the X-Men universe, dealing with mutant powers and super beings. But because it's half horror, half mutants and X-Men, one never really overtakes the other. And so there's a balancing act rather than a blending of the two. Yes, there's some action in this movie, but unfortunately it doesn't happen until late in the third act. The production value for this film is quite low. You have a cast of only 6 individuals in one location. So you don't have to really change up the sets or design anything too different because it's in one location, which is nice. This film also features something that a lot of the X-Men movies don't really dive into, and that's relationships and friendships. This movie takes away from Fantastic Four in the sense that you have these young characters, so they try to focus on things that they would relate to, things that they would get involved with, staying up late, sneaking away, getting in relationships, arguing, fighting, acting childish, or whatnot. So they have that aspect for it, which is nice, because if it was just a bunch of adults trapped in one location, it would be a very different movie. Also, the way they interact with the authority figure, played by Alice Braga, she's the nurse. She's like the Nurse Ratched of this movie, where none of the characters like her, and she's mean, but she has her reason for being so. Now, this movie is very simple in the sense that these kids are kept in a hospital until they can follow the rules, until they can do what's asked of them. But there's really no clear motive. There's no real clear reason as to why they're there or how they're supposed to behave. They're kept in this area to learn how to use their powers, how to harness them, how to control them. Yet there's no teaching involved in this movie or with their powers. There's no counseling. It's just really a bunch of group therapy sessions about how they feel about things. There's no display of powers. There's no Professor X teaching or nurturing or guiding of how they're supposed to use their abilities or to try to help them out. It's just the nurse listening to these kids bicker at each other. There's real no depth there with them. And the biggest issue with this movie is not the production, it's not the acting, because Macy Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy, they're good. Charlie Heath, he's good as well. So their roles are fine, even though sometimes their accents kind of are in one scene but not in another, and so that's a little distracting. But the biggest problem with this movie is that it stands alone. And I mean that in the sense that when this film was originally supposed to come out in 2017, it would have been coming off the heels of movies like Logan and X-Men Apocalypse. So it would have been welcomed in that superhero mutant X-Men realm. But now that Fox is done, and the last X-Men movie we got was Dark Phoenix, which was terrible, this movie kind of stands alone. So nobody really wants to see an X-Men movie anymore, especially 3 years late, right? So because this movie was okay for what it was, but it would have been embraced better when it was supposed to come out, and considering the Fox is no more, the things that they allude to in this movie that the X-Men universe has not touched on yet, which they really need to, they can't do anything with it because Fox is no more. So that universe doesn't exist anymore, which is sad. So because this movie is okay for what it was, but it was a bad idea to release this in the theaters. It should have been a straight to DVD or straight to home streaming release. So I'm going to give The New Mutants a C. The acting is good, and if you like mutants, well, you'll get pieces of it, but you're going to be underwhelmed. So until next time, see ya.